The chapter began with the male lead, Kim Kai-bong, who was working at his part-time job. He's not very happy with his daily routine. He then received a message from his mother, asking him to come and visit her, and also to bring some fried chicken. Kai-bong promised to get her some chicken, but suddenly he heard a loud noise outside. When he went out to look, he saw monsters destroying the city. He tried to run away, but he fell down. He thought he tripped, but then he noticed that his legs were no longer attached to his body. He then saw a monster behind him and he assumed that he was attacked. As he lost consciousness, he saw a message pop up that read, activating the Human Awakening Program and initiating awakening test. After losing consciousness, Kim Kai-bong found himself in a room and was surprised to see that his injuries were gone. A message appeared greeting him and welcoming him to the awakening area. He realized that the place he was in resembled a computer program. Soon after, another message popped up initiating the awakening test. Suddenly a monster appeared and the system gave him a mission to attack the test monster. Kim Kai-bong became frustrated as he found the quest to be impossible. The monster attacked him and killed him. A message appeared stating that he failed the awakening quest and his body would be regenerated. After his body was regenerated, he was disgusted to see his previous corpse and threw up when the monster appeared again. He panicked and tried to run, but it killed him once more. He responded confused and frustrated about how to defeat the monster. The system explained that the test monster was a transcendent existence and was impossible to kill according to the program. Kai-bong asked who was communicating with him, where he was and why he was brought there. The system replied that he is currently in the awakening test area, a specially designed area meant to be fair for testing purposes. The system explained that humans have the potential for awakening, and once the player awakens their abilities and lands a hit on the test monster, the test will end and they will be sent back to reality. The system also reassured the player that there was no need to worry about dying during the test, as his body would be regenerated no matter how many times he died. As Kai-bong surveyed the corpses surrounding him, he felt compelled to trust the system's words. Despite his doubts, he realized that he had no choice but to accept his situation or continue dying in agony. Just then the monster attacked, but Kai-bong managed to dodge the attack. Suddenly a message appeared informing him that he had successfully awakened and acquired a skill and ability called body enhancement. Kai-bong decided to attack the monster in order to complete the quest, as it was the only course of action available to him. As he landed the blow, a message appeared, congratulating him on completing the awakening test. As Kai-bong shouted in victory, he was met with disappointment as multiple error messages appeared, including one indicating that he was unable to leave the test area due to an unknown error. Suddenly the awakening test recommenced and the monster reappeared, catching Kai-bong off guard and resulting in his death. Kai-bong regenerated and shouted in frustration, and he was then killed again. He compared the experience to that of a game, nothing that the unknown error was similar to a bug. He felt as though he was a game character unable to progress due to the bug and stuck in the space. Following Kai-bong's death, he was recreated only to suffer the same fate once more. This cycle repeated itself for weeks, then months, and eventually a year passed. During this time, Kai-bong's mind began to deteriorate. Despite his body being regenerated, his mind was slowly being worn away, leaving him in a state of despair. The message then appeared informing that his health stat had increased due to continuous attacks on his body and the backup data would be adjusted. Kai-bong, however, was not interested and asked if the error had been adjusted. The system replied that the error had not been fixed and he could not escape the place forever. Kai-bong was repeatedly killed and regenerated over the course of 2, 3 and eventually 4 years. He had tried running away and resisting the test monster, which led to a significant increase in his stats. However, Kai-bong eventually gave up fighting as he remembered the words from the first day. After 10 years, he asked the system about the state of the world outside. The system replied that not much had changed and that time in this dimension passed 300 times faster than in his world, with 10 years here only amounting to 12 days in his own world. Kai-bong remembered his mother's message and thought that he needed to buy her some chicken. He was then killed again by the monster. After 500 years of being killed and regenerated, Kai-bong sat lifelessly with his memories fading away. He could hardly recall his family, friends, or even his own identity, and was left with a single question that consumed his thoughts: why? As Kai-bong repeated the question of why, the test monster attacked him once again. However, this time he easily deflected the monster's attack fueled by his rage, despite the idea of fairness and the promise of awakening. Kaibong didn't care about any of that. His only concern was why he was the only one with this error. All he had ever wanted was to live a life filled with excitement and enjoyment, and he directed all his anger and fury towards the test monster. 10 years had passed since humanity's awakening day. A crack appeared in the sky. An error message states that the server is experiencing significant damage due to the destruction of its firewall. After breaking through the crack with his fists, Kaibong emerged as the test monster inside of already perished. Kaibong's awakening test lasted for 3,000 years. During which he was able to reach the maximum level for all of his stats. The system encountered an error and could not connect to the main system. It initiated offline self-synchronization. Kaibong, who had been thinking about returning to reality for 3,000 years, asked the system where his mother was located. However, the system was unable to locate her, as the function was not available in offline mode. Kaibong sighed and decided to go home for now. Kaibong arrived at his house but was shocked to see that it was now in ruins. 2 soldiers arrived and told him that the area was now restricted to civilians and advised him to go to a safe zone. Curious, Kaibong asked the soldiers what had happened to his neighborhood. One of the soldiers replied in a surprised tone, asking if Kaibong had been living under a rock, and explained that it was due to the dungeon break that happened 10 years ago. Kaibong thought that the cause of the ruins might have been related to the monsters he saw before entering the test. He asked the soldier about the fate of the people who lived in the buildings. The soldier replied that everyone had died, leaving Kaibong in shock. However, the soldier added that the residents who were outside their homes at the time of the incident were evacuated to a safe zone by the government. The soldier suggested that Kaibong should head there if he was looking for someone. Kaibong grabbed the soldier and inquired about the location, to which the soldier responded that it was situated in Moontown B Zone. Kaibong wasted no time and hurried to the location. Later, the 2 soldiers overheard through the radio that a dungeon break had been detected, and it was estimated to be in the migrant community sector of B Zone's Moontown. Then the migrant community sector preparations were underway for a dungeon break. As soldiers and Lieutenant Colonel Ohio and Kyan arrived on the scene, Hyun Kyan ordered his troops to secure the area and request reinforcements, as they could not stop the break on their own. He expressed frustration that the forces from the guild were running late, believing they were being lazy and using the situation to ask for more funds. First Lieutenant Lee Jun asked for guidance on what to do, and Hyun Kyan ordered them to build a defense line and deal with small monsters first, intercepting the medium and large class monsters when reinforcements arrived. Yoon expressed concern about civilian casualties, but Hyun Kyan believed that if the monsters escaped to other areas, everyone would be at risk. Kaibong arrived in the area and was surprised to see soldiers present. He asked the system what was happening and learned that a dungeon break was about to occur in B Zone in 3 minutes. Remembering what happened during the last break, Kaibong feared for his mother's safety and tried to enter the area. However, soldiers stopped him and informed him of the imminent danger, ordering him to head to a safe zone. The soldiers who stopped Kaibong were overwhelmed by his powerful aura and fell to the ground. Kyan witnessed this and ordered his troops to stop Kaibong. The soldiers then surrounded Kaibong at gunpoint, but he used his power to force them to step aside. Jun scolded the soldiers for allowing a civilian to enter the area, but one soldier recognized Kaibong as a player. The crack in the sky signaled the beginning of the dungeon break, as monsters started pouring out, causing the soldiers to lose hope. Jun followed Kaibong as he walked, and the system informed him that it was a 5-star ranked dungeon break. Kaibong was furious at the thought of the dungeons and monsters. As a monster attacked him, Kaibong swiftly killed it, then caught another monster's tentacles and slammed it to the ground before finishing it off by stomping on its head. More monsters kept hearing, but Kaibong continued to destroy them. Meanwhile, Jun searched for him and found Kaibong surrounded by a pile of monster corpses. Stunned that he single-handedly stopped a 5-star dungeon break, the boss monster emerged, and upon seeing its minion slain, it grew furious. The system informed Kaibong that the dungeon break would only end once it was defeated. Kaibong bravely advanced towards the monster, while Jun, overcome with fear, fell to her knees. However, she quickly noticed the survivors and urged them to flee to safety as the civilians ran. A little girl stumbled and fell, prompting a nearby monster to attack her and her mother. Fortunately, Kaibong arrived and rescued them. Afterward, Kaibong commanded the system to locate his mother, but after some time the system was unable to find her. Kaibong recalled his family, whom he had thought of repeatedly for 3,000 years to avoid forgetting them. However, now his memories of them were becoming hazy. The boss launched an assault, unleashing a barrage of projectiles at Kaibong. In response, Kaibong activated his body enhancement skill, allowing him to defuse the attacks and charge towards the boss. He recalled his mother's messages as he deflected more incoming projectiles, impressing June with his abilities, as he redirected the boss's attacks away from the nearby town. Suddenly the boss fired a powerful beam, but Kaibong met it head-on with a punch that destroyed the boss. June was stunned by Kaibong's incredible feat. He deactivated his skill. Just then someone called out Kaibong's name, causing him to turn around, overcome with emotions that had been suppressed for the past 3,000 years. Kaibong felt as if a dam had burst inside him, unleashing a flood of feelings. His mother appeared before him and he rushed towards her, embracing her tightly as they both wept. His mother cried out, asking where he had been, while Kaibong apologized for not being able to bring her any chicken. However, their reunion was abruptly interrupted when a surviving monster attacked Kaibong's mother. Kaibong thought about how he became stronger by standing atop his corpses. Despite his powerful body, he was unable to protect the person he loved the most. As June defeated the monster, Kaibong tended to his mother, who consoled him and expressed her affection towards him before eventually losing consciousness. Overwhelmed with grief, Kaibong let out a mournful cry. Ha Yong Kaian and Yoon of the Seoul Defense Force discussed Kaibong's recent dungeon clearing accomplishments, having destroyed all dungeons in the area over the past month. Despite this feat, the guilds showed dissatisfaction, and Hyung Kaian believed they would take action soon to prevent Kaibong from losing control. Ha Yong Kaian ordered June to bring him in. Kaibong continued his monster-killing rampage, easily defeating a horde of monsters after activating his body enhancement. Following the battle, June introduced herself and revealed they had met before, but the timing wasn't right for a proper greeting. Yoon empathized with Kaibong's desire to destroy all the monsters and dungeons, but explained that it was ultimately meaning, as they would reappear over time. Kaibong questioned whether he should do nothing after enduring 3,000 years of agony, including his body breaking apart and turning to dust, just to return to his family. He expressed frustration that all his efforts were in vain and questioned if June was suggesting he should simply endure it all again. After their conversation, Kaibong walked away, but Yoon offered to help him with his revenge and destroy the monsters and dungeons. She invited him to come with her. 6 months later, Kaibong visited his unconscious mother, informing her that he had become a high-ranking public official, which meant he wouldn't be able to visit her often due to his busy schedule. Despite this, he promised to return and asked his mother not to be too disappointed. Kaibong came out of the room and was greeted by the officers. As he prepared to head to the dungeons, at a bar a man drank while listening to news of the government ending the Shield Guild's defense service in the metropolitan area. Suddenly an unknown man approached and identified the drinking man as Captain Beat Chill of the scout team. The unknown mentioned a source of recent uproar who was causing trouble for their business. Beat Chill asked if he should eliminate him, but the unknown man instructed him to recruit him instead, treating him like a team captain. Beat Chilly stood up and left, acknowledging the instructions. Kaibong's group entered a 5-star class dungeon named Monstrous Bird Nest, and one of the members informed Kaibong that this was the last dungeon scheduled to break that month. Kaibong ordered the group to be on standby and left to confront the monsters. He requested the system to locate the boss, and as it scanned, he killed the surrounding monsters. The scan was completed and the system informed him of the boss's location. Kaibong immediately headed there and came face to face with the boss, called Albatross. Kaibong's team was observing his battle with the boss monster Albatross in the 5-star class dungeon Monstrous Bird Nest. The members estimated that Kaibong would soon emerge victorious as they prepared to move to collect the spirit stones from the monsters. The dungeon entrance suddenly opened and they were attacked by an unknown person who threw a dagger at the man, followed by another attack, knocking down the vice captain Beat Chilly, who had arrived with the attackers. Asked the team which of them was Kim Kaibong. Meanwhile, Kaibong was still fighting the boss monster Albatross. Kaibong was hit by the boss's fiery breath, causing an explosion that Beat Chilly felt from a distance. he realized that Kaibong was not with the rest of the team and made the decision to attack and kill Kaibong's team in order to draw him out. Kaibong acquired a tribute resistance from the attack and emerged unharmed. He then attacked, defeating the boss and causing a black sphere to drop from its corpse. He asked the system what the sphere was. The system identified it as a day stone but was unable to provide further information due to being offline. Suddenly the system alerted him of a fight occurring at the dungeon entrance. Beat Chil and his team attacked Kaibong's group, beating them down after learning that Kaibong had defeated the dungeon boss. Beat Chil realized that the explosion he heard earlier was Kaibong fighting the monster. As they were leaving to find Kaibong, Kaibong suddenly appeared behind them, causing them to be surprised. Kaibong approached Beat Chil's group, who introduced himself but then stopped when he felt Kaibong's powerful aura causing him to tremble. Kaibong asked if Beat Chili's group was from the Shield Guild. The people behind Beat Chili felt disrespected by Kaibong's question, but Beat Chili told them to be quiet. Beat Chili remembered the order to recruit and treat Kaibong as a team captain and cursed at the thought of such a low rank for someone like Kaibong. He realized that they needed to make Kaibong their ally even if it meant giving up an executive position. Beat Chili offered Kim Kaibong to join the Shield Guild, emphasizing their strength as the strongest guild in South Korea and promising to grant him any wish he desires. Beat Chil's words were sincere and honest. The position of a team captain and a large guild could earn a salary of at least 3 billion won. They had immense power and influence, making it nearly impossible for any country to challenge them. One of Kaibong team members overheard Beat Chil's offer and realized that their squad would be useless without Kaibong. Being scouted by a large guild was a turning point in a player's life, and it was an offer that no one would refuse. Recalling what happened to his mother, Kaibong asked if the Shield Guild was responsible for the defense of the capital city, which also included Moontown. Beat Chili confirmed, however, before he could finish his words, Kaibong attacked and sent him flying, leaving him unconscious in front of his team. The rest of Beat Chil's team prepared to attack, but Kaibong made it clear that it was not about personal feelings but rather payback for attacking his team. The Shield Guild is the strongest and most prominent guild in South Korea, responsible for protecting the capital area where high-ranked dungeons are located, with over 5,000 members including the 3 ranked players of South Korea. They are considered the country's shield. Kaibong attacked the Shield Guild members and easily defeated them one by one, even using one of them as a weapon. Beat Chili watched and as Kaibong continued his rampage, realizing that Kaibong was incredibly powerful and seemed indifferent to their attack. Beat Chil also noted that he had brought the best members of his team, but they were still no match for Kaibong. Beat Chil's team was being treated for their injuries in the Shield Guild's building, with some in critical condition. The director of the Shield Guild arrived and requested to speak to Beat Chili alone. After injecting him with something to wake him up, the director asked him to explain what happened. Beat Chili revealed that they were defeated by Kim Kaibong, whose power was immeasurable. The director then asked if Kaibong could match their guild master. Beat Chil was unable to make a decision, as both Kaibong and the guild master were transcendent beings that were beyond his reach. When asked by the director if they could recruit Kim Kaibong, he informed the director that Kaibong's hostility towards them was evident and they could not recruit him. The director got up and left, deciding that Kaibong needed to be eliminated before other guilds could recruit him. He then contacted someone and issued a kill order to the vice master. He thought that if they can't have him, they must eliminate him so he won't stand in their way. Kaibong was at Abyssal Beach, a 4-star dungeon, hunting monsters. When he killed a whale-like creature, he then asked the system to provide more information about the Day Stone, but the system responded that it was impossible due to being in offline mode. Frustrated, Kaibong sighed. However, the system then revealed that it could absorb the Day Stone and explained the benefits of doing so, which included a system upgrade and access to the source of the dungeons. Kaibong agreed to let the system absorb the Day Stone. In the meantime, a person dressed in unusual attire was walking and drew attention from people around him. He approached a woman and showed her a poorly drawn picture, asking if she had seen the person in it. The woman was confused by the drawing and said she hadn't seen the person, then walked away. The woman was confused by the drawing and said she hadn't seen the person, then walked away. However, the person felt the system absorbing the day stone and was relieved to have found where Kaibong was. After absorbing the day stone, Kaibong system gained two new functions: human analysis and emotion expression. The system explained that human analysis allows it to gather detailed information about a person, and if the target is a player it can view their stats. Kaibong found this interesting and asked about the emotion expression function. The system then showed an emotion reaction, making him speechless. Kaibong landed on a rooftop and asked the system to locate the nearest bus stop for him to return to the army. The system asked why he didn't fly to the location, which surprised Kaibong. He assumed that the system's new upgrade allowed it to ask questions. Kaibong replied that he was asked not to fly by Lieutenant Colonello, who said his flying created chaos within the Air Force. Kaibong felt that someone was following him while he was walking. He suspected that the person might be from the Shield Guild, but he couldn't sense any hostility from him. He ordered the system to analyze the man, but the analysis failed, leaving Kaibong frustrated. Eventually the pursuer approached him and sat beside him with a smile on his face. Kaibong wondered about the man's intention. Kaibong boarded the bus, deciding not to engage with the man who had been following him. However, he found that the man was already sitting beside him, which surprised him. In a 4-star dungeon, Sarge Emperor Park Harem, the vice master of the Shield Guild, was battling multiple giant snake monsters after killing the surrounding monsters with his sword. He threw his weapon in a particular direction and the director appeared. Darim questioned why the director was there, since he had previously instructed him not to come unless it was urgent. The director responded with surprise and said that Darim was living inside the dungeon, so he assumed it was necessary. The director asked Harem to eliminate someone, but Darim refused and suggested leaving it to the scout team. The director informed him that the scout team had already failed in their mission, which was unusual since they were the best fighters of the Shield Guild and only faced players. They were given priority in terms of equipment and had never failed a mission until now. Darim stopped and was now interested in the mission. Without delay he rushed to the office of the Prime Minister and made a scene. Eventually confronting Gusi Angryong, who is both the Prime Minister of South Korea and an S-ranked player. Her skills as a player are among the finest, and she decided to become a politician to rescue more players than she could as a warrior. Darim greets Prime Minister Gucci Angryong, whom he hasn't seen in 3 years, but she rebuffs his concern and tells him not to call her ma'am. Darim comments on her cold demeanor and Songryong draws her weapon, reminding him of her temper. Gusi Angryong is an S-ranked player and the current Prime Minister. She was one of the first-generation Awakeners on that day, which makes her a first. Songryong activated her powerful mass teleport skill to take Darim to a secluded area. Impressing him with her abilities, however, she quickly prepared to attack him and accuse him of treason. Meanwhile, Kaibong arrived at the base and was still being followed by the mysterious man, when the soldiers at the entrance asked if the man was his brother. Kaibong denied knowing him. The soldiers of the base stopped the man who was following Kaibong and told him that ordinary citizens are not allowed inside. Meanwhile, inside the base, Kaibong was contemplating the meaning of the source of the dungeons and decided to gather more day stones to give to the system. While changing, he noticed that the mysterious man was at his window and being pursued by the soldiers. Songryong and Darim were engaged in a battle, with Darim demanding that she hand over Kim Kaibong. Songryong, however, revealed that she knew what the Shield Guild was up to. She explained that thanks to Kim Kaibong's efforts in dealing with dungeon breaks, the government did not renew its contract with the Shield Guild for the Metropolitan Area Defense Service. This meant that the guild's situation had become problematic, as they no longer received their share of the country's taxes. In an attempt to recruit Kim Kaibong by offering him money and prestige, the Shield Guild had failed. Kim Kaibong had wiped out their team, and now the only thing the Shield Guild could do was to kill him. Songryong attacked Darim with a fire skill, intending to defeat him. Meanwhile, the soldiers in the base caught the mysterious man who had been following Kaibong. When Kaibong asked why he was following him, the man simply replied that he wanted to see him. Kaibong asked for his identity and how he knew him. The mysterious man claimed to know Kaibong and that he had emerged from the rift. Kaibong was surprised and wondered about the man knowing about him. The man expressed his curiosity to observe Kaibong closely and asked to live with him. the vice captain intervened, warning the man about the military's boundaries. However, the man requested to make him a soldier so he could stay. The vice captain laughed and accepted the mysterious man's challenge with the condition that he must win against him to join the team despite Kaibong's warning. The vice captain insisted and stated that he will punish the man for his rude behavior towards Kaibong. The mysterious man questioned if everyone else in the team had to win against him to join, to which the vice captain responded by calling him in and inviting him to come at him, claiming to be the weakest of the bunch. Darim caught Seangrian off guard by dispelling her skill and proceeded to take out a return stone. Seangrian attempted to stop him, but it was too late. Darim then reminded her of her title as Korea's strongest and crushed the stone, challenging her to see if she can protect those close to her. The stone activated and Darim vanished, leaving her in the area. Seangrian was worried about Kaibong, as Darim and S rank with a myth-grade weapon was a formidable opponent. In the meantime, the vice captain began the fight with the man, who reiterated that if he won he could stay, then threw a punch, which the vice captain felt the power of, but Kaibong intervened and stopped the attack. Kaibong then introduced himself and asked for the man's name, to which he replied that it was Kong Hui. Kaibong told the vice captain that Kong Hui was not someone he could fight and emphasized the importance of analyzing an opponent's strength. The vice captain felt remorseful for lacking strength. Kong Hui then asked Kaibong if his words were directed towards him. Kaibong confirmed and asked if Kong Hui still wanted to fight him. Kong Hui expressed his desire to fight. Kaibong team members, who were a part of the special dungeon management team that had been observing Kaibong for the past 6 months, found the idea crazy. The vice captain acknowledged that Kong Hui was strong but believed that Kaibong was on a different level. Altogether, Kong Hui started the attack towards Kaibong, but Kaibong managed to avoid it with ease and tried to land a hit with a kick, which was blocked by Kong Hui, much to Kaibong's surprise. Kaibong continued with his attack while questioning Kong Hui's identity and purpose, but Kong Hui refused to reveal any information, stating that it was a secret. In response, Kong Hui delivered a powerful kick, forcing Kaibong back. Kaibong was taken aback when he was thrown back by Kong Hui's kick, as it was the first time he had ever been knocked back. Kong Hui then launched an energy ball attack at him, which Kaibong deflected. He wondered if it was magic. When Kaibong asked if it was, Kong Hui confirmed that it was similar and proceeded to fire multiple energy balls at him, to the shock of the other team members. Kong Hui wondered if he had managed to land a hit on Kaibong. Kong Hui was surprised to see Kaibong unharmed. However, Kaibong was angry about his damaged clothes and decided it was his turn to attack. Kong Hui, impressed by Kaibong's strength, he gave up and stated that it would be okay with staying after winning against a vice captain, but Kaibong wasn't finished yet and punched Kong Hui, knocking him out. Kaibong then instructed the team to help Kong Hui unpack the Fire Dragon's Nest. Is an 8-star dungeon which is the highest rank in existence, and it is surrounded by many theories. However, all the experts agree on one thing, that if the Fire Dragon wakes up, South Korea will face its biggest crisis. Since its creation inside the dungeon, Darim killed a Fire Dragon hatchling intentionally, awakening the Fire Dragon, causing it to become enraged and potentially starting the downfall of humanity. 10 minutes prior to the Fire Dragon's awakening, the Shield Guild had captured a Fire Dragon hatchling. The director expressed his annoyance, acknowledging that it was still a Fire Dragon, despite being a hatchling. Terra mask for a plan to lure Kim Kaibong out. The director proposed a simple plan, killing the hatchling to wake up the Fire Dragon. The government would then send special forces to buy time and ultimately sent Team Kim Kaibong to manage the situation. Darim questioned how they would deal with the angry Fire Dragon after dealing with Kaibong, and the director revealed their plan to seal the dragon using a day stone. The director explained that experiments in Saudi Arabia had revealed something useful, namely that they could use the day stone to induce the dragon to enter another period of slumber. Darim delivered the killing blow to the hatchling while laughing and approving of the plan. The civilians noticed a sky turning red and the army arrived as news outlets reported an emergency situation and urged citizens to evacuate to nearby underground bunkers, due to the government's death declaration of martial law. During an interview with a professor, he explained that a great disaster was imminent, citing a similar case in Russia where they sealed a dungeon by dropping countless nuclear warheads on it. However, this approach was not feasible in Incheon, a city with inhabitants. The people were frightened and remembered what happened a decade ago. Sangryong cursed the Shield Guild and demanded that the National Intelligence Service be contacted to locate them. She also inquired about the president's whereabouts and was told that the president had already evacuated to the underground bunker and given her full power. She sighed knowing that it was her responsibility. They arrived near the dungeon and she ordered to send an emergency notice to every guild master and to summon the top 100 players of the nation. Kaibong and his team arrived at the entrance of the dungeon where the members were scared knowing that they were just pawns to buy time. However, Kong Wei was excited to see the dungeon. The vice captain asked Kaibong if they would let Kong Wei join them and Kaibong agreed thinking he might be useful as they entered the dungeon. Only Kaibong and Kong Wei managed to enter the dungeon as the others were rejected. Kaibong was surprised to see that Kong Wei managed to enter. Darim appeared and immediately attacked Kaibong, who was surprised by Darim's speed. Kaibong activated his body enhancement skill to block the attack but was surprised when he was injured and the system informed him that his defense had been ignored. The emergency notice reached top players outside the dungeon, including 4th ranked Chi and Yuban 99th rank Yue and others. Kaibong was confused by his injury and Darim showed disappointment towards him. Kaibong noticed Tarim's Shield Guild tattoo side and said that he had no time for him since his priority was to stop the fire dragon. Kaibong was attacked by Darim and sustained damage. Provoking Kaibong to attempt to finish the fight quickly, he attacked, destroying the area, but was left kneeling and confused about what happened. Meanwhile, the director observed from afar and laughed. Sangryong arrived at the entrance of the dungeon and asked the vice captain about Kaibong's whereabouts. The vice captain explained that they couldn't enter due to the fire dragon's barrier. Sangryong checked the barrier and found that it was not created by the fire dragon but by the Shield Guild. In an attempt to kill Kaibong, Kaibong and Darim's battle continued with Kaibong taking constant damage. Meanwhile, the director revealed that the vice guild master possessed the light dragon's fang, a powerful weapon obtained from a 7-star dungeon. Despite its size, the weapon was incredibly lightweight and sharp enough to cut through any metal. The weapon was also said to be enchanted with numerous spells, including the famous Reflect spell. Kaibong learned from the system about the light dragon fang's reflectability and realized that he was hurting himself with his own attacks. He was impressed by the weapon's power. Darim attacked and wounded Kaibong. However, Kaibong brushed off the injury and asked Darim to give him the weapon, saying that it would be ideal for his subordinates. Darim was surprised to see that Kaibong seemed unfazed by all the damage he had taken. Kaibong attributed his ability to withstand the damage to having more blood than most people. However, the system pointed out that a significant portion of the damage he received was self-inflicted and teasingly laughed at Kaibong. Kaibong scolded the system for providing the information too late and called it useless. Kaibong's response angered Darim, causing him to attack. Kaibong retaliated, but the reflectability caused him to take damage as well. Darim was shocked by Kaibong's power, evidenced by the destruction caused by their clash. Kaibong boasted about the strength of his attacks and decided to test the limit of the sword's reflectability. The fire dragon was attacking the barrier, causing concern among the other members of the Shield Guild. However, the director assured them that breaking the barrier of an 8-star dungeon from the inside is not an easy feat and that they still have time until the dungeon breaks. The director knew that the dungeon barrier was getting weaker. Despite his earlier assurance to the Shield members, he acknowledged the strength of the 8-star boss monster and felt that they might need to use the day stone earlier than planned. He expressed his hope that the vice master would finish off Kaibong before the situation worsens. During Kaibong and Darim's battle, someone approached the director and it turned out to be Kong Hui. The Shield Guild members recognized him as Kaibong's ally and chased after him. Despite taking damage from the light dragon fang's reflect spell, Kaibong kept attacking. Darim taunted him, believing that the weapon could reflect any physical attacks. Darim advised Kaibong to give up, but Kaibong persisted with his attacks. Suddenly Darim started to stumble and Sangryong felt the tremors of the battle from outside. She considered breaking the barrier forcefully but was reminded by one of her subordinates that as South Korea's commander-in-chief, leaving her post could lead to the raid's failure and the nation's downfall. Sangryong reluctantly agreed and stopped. Darim was relieved to see Kaibong stop his attacks, but Kaibong urged him to keep blocking and continued his assault. Eventually Darim fell to his knees and began coughing up blood, confused about how he took damage. He then noticed a crack in his sword. Kaibong told him to keep blocking and pressed on with his attacks, causing even more damage and destroying the sword, before pummeling Darim into the ground. The fight came to an end with Kang Wai witnessing Kaibong's victory and the pursuing shield members left in surprise. Kaibong regretfully picked up the broken sword, and the director was also amazed since Darim was one of the top 3 players in South Korea. The Shield Guild used to act without repercussions due to their strength, but Kaibong's triumph shattered that logic. The director observed Darim's defeat and gave the order for the Shield members to withdraw, instructing them to use their return stones. One of the members expressed concern about not using the Day Stone to seal the dragon. The director responded by explaining that even if the top 100 rankers in South Korea were to participate in the raid, the chances of success would still be low, and many of the top rankers were members of the Shield Guild. He decided to wait and arrive at the climax of the battle to use the Day Stone during a decisive moment. The director stated that although the plan had deviated from the original, the outcome was still the same. They would be seen as the heroes who protected the country from the fire dragon. This would make it difficult for even the Prime Minister to condemn them even if she discovered the truth. The director commanded the Shield members to retreat, leaving Darim behind. One of the members hesitated, but the director ordered him to retrieve Darim in front of Kaibong. The Shield members exited the dungeon, and Kang Wai asked Kaibong if they would pursue them, but Kaibong insisted that their priority was the fire dragon. The fire dragon continued its attack on the barrier, while Seangryong was informed that the damage to the barrier was already at 89 and there were only 5 minutes left until the dungeon break. People outside the dungeon saw the fire dragon, and Seangryong assumed that the Shield Guild had already killed Kaibong and removed the barrier. However, they later noticed that Kaibong and Kang Wai were still inside. Meanwhile, while the TV crew spotted a person on the ground and identified it as Park Turim of the Shield Guild. Seangryong was surprised by Kaibong's strength in defeating Darim and tried to contact him, but was informed that the dungeon's radio interference was preventing communication. The dragon attacked the barrier once again and the damage rate reached 97%. Seangryong realized that they needed to delay the dungeon break to prevent the fire dragon from getting out of the dungeon and putting the entire country in danger. She looked at the gathered players and estimated that there were only around 30 of them, not enough to face the dragon. She believed they needed at least 80 of the top 100 rankers to be ready for the battle. After being informed that Kaibong had been contacted, it was Kang Hui who picked up the earpiece first. But Kaibong eventually took over and spoke with Seangryong. She inquired about his condition, to which he replied that it was tolerable, and then asked for further instructions. She reluctantly asked for more time, knowing that it meant risking his life. He agreed to Seangryong's request. Hung up, the reporters observed that the people inside the dungeon were moving closer to the fire dragon. An official raised concerns about Kaibong's actions, but Seangryong intervened, stating that Kaibong represented South Korea's future and hope, and that she had just ordered him to sacrifice himself for all of them. Kaibong approached the fire dragon despite his low health using his skill. However, his health was constantly decreasing due to bleeding from his previous fight. The system recommended that he take a break, but Kaibong couldn't leave as it would put his mother in danger. The system suggested escaping overseas with his mother, but Kaibong called it trash. Kang Hai asked Kaibong if they were really going to fight the fire dragon. Kaibong confirmed that they would. Kang Hui expressed his doubts about their chances of winning. Suddenly the fire dragon launched an attack, breathing fire and destroying the surrounding area. Kang Hui used his shield to block the attack. Kaibong was impressed with the skill and asked about it, but before Kang Hui could explain, the dragon attacked him, sending him flying. After Kang Wei landed unconscious, the dragon turned its attention to Kaibong and launched an attack. Kaibong managed to dodge, but the dragon followed up with a tail strike which Kaibong caught with one arm. However, this worsened his wounds and caused his health to drop to 7%. Despite this, Kaibong pushed the tail back and retaliated with an attack, striking the dragon's head. It fell to the ground, but Kaibong's health continued to decrease to 4%. Due to the recoil from his attacks, he charged at the dragon, but it breathed fire at him. Kaibong dodged the attack, realizing that he couldn't take it due to his low health, but he noticed that the dragon's attack was heading to the barrier, which was already at its limit. Seangryong ordered everyone to run away, but Kang Wai arrived and blocked the attack, although he landed hard on the ground. Kang Wai was happy that he managed to stop the dragon's attack. After praising Kang Wai for his contribution, Kai Bong turned his attention back to defeating the fire dragon, as the dragon prepared a powerful attack. Kai Bong also prepared his own and charged towards the beast with a powerful strike. Kai Bong was able to defeat the fire dragon and clear the 8-star dungeon known as the Fire Dragon's Nest. As a reward, Kai Bong obtained a unique skill known as the First Dragon Slayer, which increases his damage against draconic monsters. Kai Bong received a warning from the system that his health had dropped to 3% and advised him to get healed. Kang Wai arrived bragging about how he had blocked the dragon's attack. Kai Bong became irritated by both the system and Kang Wai's constant pestering. Kai Bong noticed something on the dragon's corpse, its dragon heart, which was an immense energy source. Since Kai Bong killed the fire dragon before it could expend all of its energy, there was an excess amount of energy left within its body. The fire dragon's body exploded and Songryong was surprised along with the people outside. She was then informed of all the rankers, except for those affiliated with the Shield Guild, had arrived and the army was ready to provide support with her weapon out. She decided it was time to destroy the barrier, but it suddenly disappeared. Concerned for Kai Bong, she rushed inside and saw the destruction. She called out for Kai Bong but found Kang Wai emerging from the rubble. When she asked about Kai Bong's whereabouts, Kang Wai pointed to where he was leaning against a wall. Seongri-young approached Kai Bong and commended him for a job well done. At the Shield Guild building, the director was informed that the Fire Dragon's Nest dungeon had been cleared, but he walked away without answering questions about their next move. It was reported that the Fire Dragon's Nest was cleared by one person from the Department of Defense. Additionally, the Vice Guildmaster of the Shield Guild, Park Turim, and his entourage were arrested by the Prime Minister for causing the Fire Dragon crisis, and all members of the Shield Guild will be charged with treason and receive severe punishments. Here is the end of the video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel.